Now to the greater Minneapolis area, where the community prepares for the end of a high-profile trial of a former police officer. And it also watched another police officer make her first court appearance. Former Brooklyn Center, Minnesota police veteran Kim Potter is charged with second-degree manslaughter in the fatal shooting of 20-year-old Daunte Wright. If found guilty, she could spend a decade in prison. Meanwhile, no more witnesses will be heard from in the Derek Chauvin trial. It follows the former police officer's decision not to take the stand to tell the jury what happened in his own words. Laura Podesta is following both of those stories for us. Laura, law enforcement is already making preparations ahead of a potential verdict in the Chauvin case next week.
That's right. Good morning, Anne-Marie. National Guard troops are already stationed in downtown Minneapolis. There are also barriers that have been put up around the courthouse there, as well as the surrounding streets. And officials in other U.S. cities, such as Washington, D.C., they're getting ready for potential protests as well.
Your Honor, the state of Minnesota rests.
Closing arguments will begin Monday in the trial of Derek Chauvin.
I will invoke my Fifth Amendment privilege today.
The former Minneapolis police officer charged with murdering George Floyd chose not to take the stand in his own defense.
Is this your decision not to testify?
It is, Your Honor.
After closing arguments, the jury will be sequestered for as long as it deliberates.
How much do I pack? If I were you, I would plan for long and hope for short. Basically, it's up to the jury how long you deliberate, how long you need to come to a unanimous decision on any count.
A few miles north in Brooklyn Center, protests in the wake of Daunte Wright's death continued for a fifth straight day.
The last few days, everybody has asked me what we want.
Wright's mom, Katie, wants accountability, but doesn't think there can ever be justice.
The justice would bring our son home to us, knocking on the door with his big smile, coming in the house, sitting down eating dinner with us, going out to lunch, playing with his one-year-old, almost two-year-old son.
Kim Potter, who allegedly mistook her taser for her firearm during the fatal traffic stop, went before a judge for the first time on Thursday via Zoom. The former officer is charged with second-degree manslaughter and faces a maximum sentence of 10 years in prison if convicted. Potter was ordered back in court next month.
Wright's funeral will be held next Thursday in Minneapolis, Anne-Marie, potentially coinciding with protests surrounding the Chauvin verdict.
Wow. Laura, speaking of protests, you mentioned that there were protests for fifth straight night in Brooklyn Center. How did that go?
Well, we're told that there were 200 to 300 protesters outside the Brooklyn Center Police Department last night, even after the 10 p.m. curfew that's been put in place. But according to our CBS affiliate there, WCCO, a reporter said that around 10:40, it really calmed down. It was the calmest that he had seen it over the last 5 nights of protests.
Turning back to the Chauvin trial, so court resumes on Monday, but with closing statements. But there's still something going on today. What are the next steps?
So right now, this afternoon, there's going to be a procedural meeting so that jury members, so that there can be an agreement on what jury members will hear when it comes to how they should determine the verdict for these various charges. So the jury won't be in the court today. Neither will Derek Chauvin. They have a long weekend before the closing arguments start on Monday. Following those closing arguments, there will be jury deliberations. If they cannot come to a unanimous decision, then the judge can declare a mistrial on one or more charges. To remind you, Derek Chauvin is charged with second-degree murder, third-degree murder, and second-degree manslaughter. Anne-Marie.
All right, Laura, thank you very much.